Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We begin with Allah's blessed name, praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, and in particular on the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, as we greet you from the studios of the Islamic Broadcasting Network here in my beautiful Caribbean island of Trinidad, with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, wherever you may be in the world, and also here in Trinidad. It is Yawmul Ahad, the day of Sunday, the first day of the week, and I'm already sleepy. So I have some coffee here to keep me awake. Not the kind of bun Yemeni I used to get in Kuala Lumpur from the Yemeni shops, but it's not bad. Coffee here in Trinidad. Have a change in our live broadcasting. Inform you that it's no longer the YouTube live broadcasting on IBN Master, but now it's now changed IBN at the bottom of the screen. So IBN TV for live streaming, and also IBNTT.com for live streaming. Don't have many more programs before I travel, and today you can call. Excuse me, from anywhere in the world you are, you can call. We will interrupt the program to take your calls. You can also call from Trinidad if you're awake and not sleeping on a Sunday morning. On the last occasion, there was a call from, I don't want to country, someone who called a question, Dajjal, whether Dajjal was in, and whether Dajjal is son of Iblis, son. And I did not have the time to answer that question on my IBN broadcast, but I did answer it from my sitting room, and that answer is already on my YouTube channel. If you have any questions on the answer that I gave, you can also call today on that subject, and we try to answer. As I said to you, I will be traveling again soon, and I need your du'as. I'll be traveling for 4 months. I won't return to Trinidad until sometime in April. During this travel, I go first of all to Belgrade, where my book on methodology for the study of the Quran has been translated to the Bosnian Serbian language, with a foreword by Professor Branko Ravic from the University of Belgrade, the Faculty of Law, my friend Branko. And it's been published by a publisher in Belgrade. And I'm going to Belgrade for the launch of that book. I'm going to be flying through London to get to Belgrade. I have to stop over for a few hours to change my flight in London, and then on to Geneva, and then on to Belgrade. And during this travel, I will also visit Pakistan, inshallah, and sometime at the end of December, early January, into Britain. But remember that travel is always dangerous for me. I always make dua to Allah, and He always takes me safely, and He always brings me safely back home. So we give thanks to Him for His kindness to me, and I give thanks to all of you for the duas that you've been making for me. But if anything happens to me when I'm in travel, then I don't want you to do anything more than simply make dua. That is all. If anything were to happen to me during travels, I don't want you to do anything more for me other than to simply make dua. That's all. I have some sad news. I grew up in a village in Trinidad called St. Thomas Village, named perhaps after St. Thomas Aquinas, the Christian theologian. Thomas Aquinas. I studied him for my PhD, for my master's degree in philosophy. Yeah. So I grew up in a village in town of Chaguanas, outside of the town of Chaguanas, called St. Thomas. Half of the town was African and half was Indian. And most of the Indians were Muslims. And it's probably just about less than 200 homes in that village. So everybody knew everybody else. We lived like a family. And I always go back to that village. My heart is there in that little village, St. Thomas Village in Chaguanas, sometimes called Boot Hill. The cemetery is there, and the government school was there for 75 years until it was broken down. And my family was located in that village for more than 100 years now, 100-something years now. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father. And I grew up in that village, and there were my friends with whom I played cricket, and I played table tennis, and I played other games. We grew up together as children and as teenagers. And as I go back to the village, less and less remain of those friends. They're all going away from the world until there are very few left now. And there was one who had a stroke a few years ago. His name was Vernon Brown. Vernon Brown. And we used to call him Browns, and sometimes people used to call him Mugs. And as a child, he and I were playing together and so on. We had a love for each other. He's Christian, I'm Muslim, but we grew up as brothers. And since he had the stroke, I went to visit him more frequently. He's on bedridden. And every few months I'll go to visit him, yes. And the last time was during Ramadan. I took my brother with me, and I took another friend with me. And it was on the 27th of Ramadan, yes. The 27th night of Ramadan, I'd gone to the village masjid. And I sat on the bed with Vernon Brown, and I held his hands, and I talked to him and made him feel nice, and made dua for him that Allah might give him shifa, not knowing that this was going to be the last time. And I went back a few days ago to the home to visit him, and his wife came to the gate to open the gate for me with a very sad look on her face, and she said, "I have sad news for you." I said, "What?" "He died." "Yes." "He died 3 months ago. I knew nothing about it. I went to visit my friend, and I'd have to go." His daughter went with me to the cemetery for me to visit him in the cemetery. And I found to my surprise that his grave is just a few yards away from my father's, my grandmother and my mother's grave, my grandfather's grave and my mother's grave. So Vernon Brown, my dear friend and brother, goodbye to you. And I miss you. I have to make mention today that this is how we lived. This is how we lived. The Indian and the African, the Muslim and the Christian, we lived as brothers. When he dies, it's like a piece of me is gone from this world. And since the Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, performed the Salatul Janazah for a Christian king, the Negus of Abyssinia, so too did I go to the grave of Vernon Brown a few days ago, and I made dua for him that Allah might have mercy on his soul. How many more are there left in that, my hometown, my little village? Very few. We now turn to today. It is the month of Rabiul Awal, and the first Jummah of Rabiul Awal is already gone. And we are, yes, on the brink of a pit of fire. That's where the world is now located. Shafa hufrati minan nar, on the brink of a pit of fire, for those who can see. But Dajjal, the false Messiah, is using all kinds of diversionary tactics to divert our attention from the massive, monstrous change which is about to overtake the world. We have spent a long time, or months now, we've been spending on cryptocurrencies, on digital and electronic money. And this is by far the most dangerous of all changes about to overtake the world. More dangerous than nuclear war. Oh, yes. Nuclear war will simply kill a lot of people. That's all. Lots and lots of mankind will vanish in nuclear war. But cryptocurrency, that's slavery. That is slavery. And we are on the brink of the pit of fire now. I have said to you, my estimate is that we probably don't have more than a year or 2 years left with paper money. And then there'll be no more anonymous transactions. With paper money, you could still have an anonymous transaction, yes, not recorded. There's no trail. But not anymore with cryptocurrencies and with electronic and digital money. It's slavery that's coming. And I have appealed to you, kindly, 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 if you have any integrity in you, if you have love in your heart for the truth which has come from Allah, all through history, if you have love in your heart for Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam in this, the month of Rabiul Awal, then kindly go to your Imam, go to your Maulana, go to your Sheikh, go to your Mufti. I don't know what else to do. Go to them and ask them. Ask them kindly, ask them softly, ask them earnestly. Tell us, please, while still there is time for you to answer. Tell us, is this money which is coming, cryptocurrencies, electronic money, digital money, virtual money, is it halal or is it haram? Is it makruh? Should we just avoid it? We do not want an answer from you just by word of mouth. We want something in writing. We want something in the form of a legal opinion, or it's called a fatwa. We want it. Go and ask them for a fatwa. Go to your Darul Ulum and ask them, kindly give us a fatwa on this money which is coming. Bitcoins that Malaysia has now legalized. Iran, I understand, is preparing to legalize in the sense of recognizing it as legal tender. Ask them, is this halal money or is it halal to be used as money or is it haram to be used as money? Go and ask them for an opinion. And while you are there with them, you can also ask them, what about the money which we've been using for the last 100 years? Since the Europeans invaded our territories and by the point of a naked blood-stained sword, and in unjust wars they defeated us and they colonized us. And then they took gold and silver coins out of the market and they replaced it with this paper money. And then they gave us the Bretton Woods Accord and the International Monetary Fund and His Majesty the US dollar as the international currency, replacing the sterling pound. And then came the petrodollar. And now we're being told there's a petro yuan coming. Is this paper money halal or haram that we've been using all this time? Can we use the paper money to pay our zakat? Ask them. Give us a fatwa. Can we use the paper money for buying and selling? Is it halal or is it haram? We want an answer. Can we use the paper money to pay the meher when we get married? Can we use the paper money to perform the hajj? Can we use the paper money to build a masjid in which we perform our salat? I'm asking you, 100 years ago, our scholars of Islam were doing that favorite pastime called, in French, faire dodo. We still use the term in Trinidad. Faire dodo means to fall asleep, to sleep. 100 years ago, there were very few scholars of Islam who stood up to declare that the paper money monetary system that was coming out of Western Europe was bogus and haram. Very few. But the established scholars, the establishment, they betrayed us. And they gave us this paper money. That's what they did 100 years ago. And now 100 years later, we are on the brink of a pit of fire. And before I go in my grave, I want it to be recorded in my book that I begged you, go and ask your scholars. They cannot avoid giving an answer. Force it from them. They must answer you. Tell us, is it halal or is it haram? We are on the verge. If you want to offer any comments, you can call on the subject. If you want to ask any questions, you can also call and ask any questions on the subject. We don't have much more time. I just have a few programs and then I'll have to travel again for 4 months. I said we are on the brink of a pit of fire. That's right. شَفَا حُفْرَةٍ مِنَ النَّارِ. And the crown prince or the schoolboy who is now poised to take over as king of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, who seems to have been groomed for this role, trained for this role by the same people who trained that prince who went and killed King Faisal. This crown prince is provoking Sunni Shia civil war in the house of Islam. They are lusting for Sunni Shia civil war. For some time now, they've been trying all they can. They're waging war on Yemen because they're saying they're waging war on the Shia in Yemen. They struggle in Syria, they struggle in Iraq, they struggle with ISIS to try to provoke Sunni Shia civil war. So far, nothing has worked. But now there are signs that perhaps they're reaching a stage of desperation. And something might happen, something big might happen to provoke Sunni Shia civil war in the house of Islam. My students and myself, we are, on the other hand, we are conforming with the command of Allah in the Quran. Listen to His command. In this month of Rabiul Awal, when there are those with boxing gloves in their hands, waging boxing matches against their brother Muslims. In this month of Rabiul Awal, take off your boxing gloves and listen to the Quran. Allah says in the Quran, it's a command. It's a command. And the command is directed to all Muslims. All Muslims. He says, وَاعْتَسِمْ بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَاعْتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on, all of you together. Hold on to the rope of Allah, which is the Quran. And He who is sent to teach the Quran. Hold on, all of you, to the rope of Allah and do not be disunited. Whether you are on this side of the fence with your boxing gloves in Rabiul Awal, or you're on the other side of the fence with your boxing gloves in Rabiul Awal, I'm talking to both of you. Take it off. Take off those boxing gloves and listen to the command of Allah. وَاعْتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Shame on you. Shame on you for your boxing gloves. Fighting with your brother Muslims over peanuts. Hold on to the rope of Allah and do not be disunited. And if you violate this command, you got a surprise waiting for you in the grave, because you have violated Allah's command. So now we are struggling because we don't say of the Shia that they are kuffar. Not at all. We do not agree with the Shia. We believe that they are misguided in their view that Allah is the one who appoints all the khulafa who succeed Nabi Muhammad ﷺ as leaders, and they call them imams. And we differ with them when they dismiss Abu Bakr Siddiq as a usurper, And we differ with them when they dismiss Omar Farooq alayhi salam as a usurper. That's a grave charge. That's a very grave charge. And we differ with them when they say of Umar, Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he's a usurper, hijacking the leadership from the one who is divinely appointed. We differ with them on that subject, with their theory of the imamate. And we have said that if you have a theory of imamate, that Allah has done this, Allah has chosen that the succession must be from the Ahlul Bayt, it must be in the Quran and not in the mutashabihat. Because if you interpret an ayah mutashabiha of the Quran, you must say Allah knows best. I can be right or I can be wrong. You can't build a belief system on that. I can be right or I can be wrong. Come on, wake up. It has to be in the ayat muhkamat. If it's not there in the ayah of muhkamat, you cannot declare that this is a part of the belief system of Islam. So we differ with the Shia on that issue, but we don't say they are kuffar. You say they are kuffar, then you'll have to answer in the grave if you are wrong. And so we try to build solidarity and reconciliation between Shia and Sunni. We've been doing that for the longest while. And because we've been doing that, even though I differ with the Shia, and I don't hide it, whenever I have visited Iran, and I've visited Iran many times already, I've traveled all over Iran, I've met the Ayatollahs, I've met the highest Ayatollahs in Iran. And I've had discussions with them, and they've invariably received me with respect and with affection. That's how I've been treated in Iran. So we are on the brink of a pit of fire. Sunni Shia civil war in the house of Islam. Excuse me a minute, I'm falling asleep, but I have to wake up. But now today, there's yet another danger. And I want to share that with you in this month of Rabiul Awal. It's the month when the Sufis celebrate the birth anniversary of the Prophet ﷺ. They call it Mawlid al-Nabi. And here in Trinidad, they say Milad al-Nabi. Mawlid al-Nabi and Milad al-Nabi. Of course, the celebration of the birth anniversary of the Prophet ﷺ is not and has never been a part of the Sunnah. No. Neither the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ nor of his companions. No. It is something new, and therefore it is a belief system. It is a religious institution or religious practice which is not based on the Quran and Sunnah. Not based on the Sunnah. You can use verses of the Quran to try to argue the case, but clearly it is not a part of the Sunnah. And so this is the month when the gloves come out. And this side of the fence is saying that those who do not celebrate the Milad al-Nabi, they are not good Muslims, they are bad Muslims, they are this, they are that, and the other. And they launch a war against these people. Milad al-Nabi is the time for boxing gloves, fighting them. We are the good Muslims, you are the bad Muslims. And then the other side also pick up their boxing gloves and say, these people are committing shirk, and these people are in bid'ah, and this and that and the other. And so it's like a merry-go-round every Milad al-Nabi, with boxing gloves this side versus that side. And which is why it is strange and mysterious to me that they waited until the month of Rabiul Awal. And then they waited until the first Jum'ah in Rabiul Awal. And then they chose a Sufi Masjid in Egypt. And then they launched this devastating attack on the masjid. And about 300 people, this is the information we have reached us, that about 300 people were killed. Is it true or is it false? I don't have anything else to go by other than the news reports. Number one, that it occurred on the first Jummah of Rabiul Awal. Number two, it was an attack on a Sufi Masjid. Number three, that more than 300 people were killed. This is the news which has reached me, and that doubtless has reached you as well. We don't know how true it is. If it is true, then the news is going to spread far and wide. And then we have to ask ourselves, well, who did it? Why did they do it? And why did they choose this particular moment to do it? The first question, who did it? The answer that is supposed to come, that we are expected to give, is that the Salafis did it. That's the answer we are expected to give. That the ISIS people, the Wahhabis and the Salafis, lump them all together. These people who declare that the Sufis are committing shirk and committing this and committing that, and they oppose the celebration of Miladun Nabi and so on. These people are not only with boxing gloves now, they pick up guns. That's the answer we are supposed to give. I am not giving that answer because I don't know who did it. I don't know if there was some intelligence agency at work involved in this planning it. Number two, why did they choose a Sufi Masjid? Answer, it would appear to me that the reason why they chose a Sufi Masjid and they chose the first Jummah in Rabiul Awal is to provoke Sufi Salafi civil war in the house of Islam. I am a political analyst, and I am therefore analyzing with the tools with which I've been trained to analyze. And why did they choose this particular time? Number one, the month of Rabiul Awal. Number two, are you listening to me in Egypt? Number two, the first Jummah in Rabiul Awal, not the second, is because they want to maximize the impact of this attack, this terrorist attack, maximize its impact. So as the days proceed now until the 12th of Rabiul Awal, the momentum will be building to a crescendo, that a wave of resentment will sweep the entire world of Sufis. And the Sufis are popular all over the world. You have Sufi movements all over the world. There's very great sympathy and support for Sufism around the world. Compared to the Salafi, I think the Sufis are far more numerous in number. But it is clear that as we now approach the 12th of Rabiul Awal, what is going to happen around the world is that there's going to be a build-up, increasing momentum, building to a crescendo of a wave of hostility against the Salafi, against the Wahhabi, against the ISIS and so on, lumping them all together, not remembering. I have many Salafis who are my students. Oh yes, many of them are my students. And so what we have now is that we are on the brink of a pit of fire, planned by those who want to divert our attention from something big that is coming. Yes, something big that is coming. Divert our attention with Sunni Shia civil war, with Sufi Salafi civil war. How do we respond? Answer, the Miladun Nabi and the other practices of the Sufis which are not based on the Sunnah should not be used to divide the people. Do not divide yourself from your Muslim brother on the basis of a religious practice which is not firmly built on the Sunnah. Do I need to repeat that to you? For those of you on this side who have on your boxing gloves, this Miladun Nabi, I have to also give a lecture for Miladun Nabi. It will be in the Endeavour Masjid. Endeavour Masjid close to Montrose on next Jummah, the 1st of December, after Salatul Maghrib. And I intend to speak on the Essential Sunnah, the Essential Sunnah. So do not divide yourself from your Muslim brothers on the basis of religious practices which are not based on the Sunnah. And Miladun Nabi is not based on the Sunnah. Having the prayers for 40 days is not based on the Sunnah. No. If you divide yourself from your Muslim brothers on the basis of religious practices which are not based on the Sunnah, you are violating the command of Allah in the Quran, in which He has ordered you, وَأَتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on, all of you. Hold fast to the rope of Allah, which is the Quran, and the Sunnah of He who was sent to teach the Quran. Hold fast, all of you, to the rope of Allah, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and do not be disunited. Do I have to remind you of Allah's command in the Quran? Prohibiting you from dividing yourself from your brother Muslims? Do not do that. So this is how we respond to the Sufi Salafi civil war which is now coming. Do not divide yourself from your Muslim brothers on the basis of religious practices which are not based on the Sunnah. My teacher, Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, was a Sufi Sheikh. Have I ever hidden that from you? No, not at all. I am proud to have him as my teacher. I am honored to have him as my teacher. And I cherish the very dust on which he walked. Yes, that's the status of Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, who was a Sufi Sheikh of the Qadiriya order. And if anyone is annoyed over my praise for my teacher, then I don't care for your annoyance, not at all. I don't care 2 peanuts for your annoyance, not at all. You're not going to stop me from honoring my teacher, not at all. Whatever be the price I have to pay, I'm prepared to pay for it. He was my teacher, and a greater teacher than any of your teachers that you have. And if Allah today has blessed me with whatever little knowledge I have, mashallah, mashallah, mashallah for that teacher who trained me. And he was a Sufi Sheikh. And I took the bay'ah with him at his hands to join the Sufi order, the Qadiriya order, in 1960, right here in Trinidad, when I was 18 years of age, at the Jama Masjid in San Fernando. But today I no longer identify myself as Sufi. No. And every single thing that I teach and every single thing that I write is based on the Quran and the Sunnah. I try never, never, never to step out of the Sunnah and on the Quran when I teach and when I write. Go and check my record and you'll see. So then why do I no longer identify myself as Sufi? Even though what I teach and what I write is the essence of Sufism, meaning al-ihsan. What is the reason that I no longer identify myself as the Sufi? But if you invite me to a Sufi zikr, Naqshbandi zikr, I'll come and I'll join you in the zikr. Yes, of course. If you have a Sufi gathering and you invite me, I'll come and I'll join you in your Sufi gathering. And if anyone is annoyed with me for that, I don't care 2 peanuts. No, I don't care 2 peanuts for your annoyance. There are many other scholars and teachers. Go find someone else. Leave me alone. I don't care for you. I don't need you if you're more learned than I am. Just go your way. If I'm wrong and you can correct me, yes, I must be humble enough to accept my mistakes. Otherwise, I'd be a fool. But simply being annoyed with me because a Sufi in a gathering invites me to join them in a zikr, and I go and I sit with them in the zikr, and you get annoyed with me for that? No, man, not at all. I don't care for your annoyance. So this is how we respond. And that is that we recognize that these religious practices are not based on the Sunnah. And as a consequence, I do not want to have to answer for them. I do not want to have to pick up any boxing gloves and wage any intellectual war to defend a religious practice which is not based on the Sunnah. And hence, I no longer identify myself publicly as Sufi. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. But other than that, what I teach and what I write is the essence of Sufism, the very essence. I don't call it Sufism. I call it Al-Ihsan, which is a term based in the Sunnah. Yes, Al-Ihsan. So this is the way I live. But if you have your Miladun Nabi program and you invite me, I will come. Yes. I will participate in it, yes, but I will not myself organize a Miladun Nabi function. Not at all. Why? Because I don't want to have to defend an institution which is not based on the Sunnah. How many times must I repeat that for you to understand? Is it so difficult to understand? What's wrong that you cannot understand it? It is not based on the Sunnah, but that does not mean that it is haram. It is not based on the Sunnah, but that does not mean that there is evil in it. No, it is when something is not based on the Sunnah and you want to insist that it is a part of religion. I don't want a part of that, because that is bid'ah and haram. When something is not based on the Sunnah, and you want to pick up boxing gloves to defend it and divide yourself from the Muslims, I don't want to be a part of that at all, at all, at all, at all, at all. I don't want to have to answer for that in the grave. No. Those who want to pick up their boxing gloves and fight battles and battles over things which are not based on the Sunnah, let them go their way. But I'm not going to do that. So, Miladun Nabi and the Sufi practices, which are not based on the Sunnah, I don't want to have to defend them, so I don't identify myself as a Sufi. But if you invite me to your zikr, I'll come and join you. And on the other hand, now you have those who their raison d'etre now is to pick up boxing gloves and sometimes pick up guns to wage war on these people who are celebrating Miladun Nabi. Oh, you are fools. I want to tell you straight to your face that you are fools, that you are dividing the ummah, and you're doing it in a destructive way over things which are not based on the Sunnah. If it is not based on the Sunnah, but they do not insist that it is a part of the deen, there's no need for you to fight a war with them. No. It is when they argue with you that this is a part of the religion, then you can say to them, this is bid'ah. So on the other side as well, if you are waging war against the Sufis because of religious practices which are not based on the Sunnah, you are also guilty of dividing the Muslims. Wala tafarraku. Do not be disunited. Look at my way. I have good relations with the Sufis. They're annoyed that I don't describe myself. Warrenville, just hold on. And I have good relations with many Salafis. Many Salafis are my students. Yes, go ahead, Warrenville. Hello? Okay, it's gone. So now then, this is the problem we now face in Egypt. Warrenville, yes, hello? Hello? Oh, we have a problem with the phone there. So we have...
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My dear brother Imran Azhar.
Yes.
This is a call from Warrenville.
Yes.
And I'd like to say to the Muslim community that right now what is going on in the world is far more important, and what we have to deal with all these wars and what is going to take place and the nuclear war and things like that, than for people to put on boxing gloves and to deal with whether we are Sufism or Salafism or Wahhabism. And I mean, these are things that whether we believe in Salafism or Sufism is a question of our choice. And whether what type of zikr we believe in is our choice. And we shouldn't be judged based on that. We should leave that based on, Allah should judge us based on that.
Okay. Yes.
So, the world have far more important things. And for example, the coming of Dajjal and what are these European people trying to do to us, or these Americans trying to do to us, and the wars that they are trying to promote. So, it's why these little trivial things are getting to our Iman and getting to us.
Yes, Warrenville, I'm very happy that you also hold the same view. Sucked into this civil war, Sufi Salafi civil war, Shia Sunni civil war, but rather we should be trying to build bridges between ourselves and build solidarity and unity with the ranks of the Muslims in conformity with the command of Allah in the Quran. وَاعْتَسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on to the book of Allah, hold on to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And for things which...
we are falling into their hands, we are falling into their trap.
That's right, they're setting a trap for us in Egypt. And as the days approach now for the 12th of Rabiul Awal, what happened in Egypt is going to spread all over the world, and there'll be increasing hatred and hostility from both sides to each other. And we're on the brink of a pit of fire that is Sunni Shia civil war, and now Sufi Salafi civil war in the house of Islam. And these are essentially craftily designed diversions to divert our attention for something tremendously destructive,
exactly,
which is around the corner.
Why doesn't we as Muslims open our eyes and see these things?
Well, I'm happy. I'm very happy that you're using the term open your eyes. Okay, we have a call from Canada. Can I take it, please? Thank you, Warrenville. Hello?
Hello, Sheikh Imran Hosein. May Allah bless you.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. My friend, I had a question. It's kind of a double question. I'll try and make it fast. It's about Surah Kaf in the Quran. Do you mind?
Yeah, speak a little slower. Yeah, go ahead. Surah Al-Kaf of the Quran.
Okay, so I'm going to read you my book, which is the Sahih International Quran.
Slower.
It's in English.
Speak a little slower for me. Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, and Allah says, and had you been present, you would see the sun when it rose, inclining away from their cave on the right. Yeah. And when it set, passing away from them on the left, while they were laying within an open space thereof, that was from the signs of Allah.
Right.
He whom Allah guides is the rightly guided, but he who Allah leaves astray, never will we find for him a protecting guide.
Right, that's Surah Al-Kaf.
And you would think them awake while they were asleep, and we turn them to the right and we turn them to the left while their dog stretched his forelegs at the entrance.
Yes, this is Surah Al-Kaf.
You would have turned from them in flight and been filled by them with terror. What does that mean?
Yeah, what's the question?
Well, when it says, if you had looked at them, you would have been turned from them in flight, you would have turned from them in flight and been filled with them by terror. Like they were asleep, but I'm just trying to figure out what Allah means by that.
Okay. All right. This This question is not pertaining to cryptocurrencies and so on, nor to the Sunni, Shia, or the Sufi Salafi civil war, but it pertains to Dajjal. Of course it does. It pertains to Dajjal. It is in Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran, so we can take a few minutes to try to explain to you. Surah Al-Kahf is one of my favorite surahs of the Quran. And these young men, and remember they were young. The Quran is directing attention in the end time to the strategic role to be played by the young. If you're young, I hope you're listening to me today. That these young men lived in a world which was essentially godless. That's right, essentially godless. هَؤُلَاءِ قَوْمٌ اتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ. Essentially godless, turning away from Allah, turning to other than Allah, turning to Parliament, for example. And in the process, they were committing shirk. And these young men did not go to sleep, eat biryani and then go to sleep and say, well, no, I can't do anything about that, because if I do it, they're going to say I'm a terrorist, they're going to shut down my business, they're going to put my name on a no-fly list. No, these young men stood up and they proclaimed the truth in defiance of the world. That's what they did. That is the sunnah of the young in Akhirul Zaman. If it is right, stand up for it. And if it is wrong and evil and unjust and shirk, stand up against it. That is Allah's command in the Quran. It is Surah to Ali Imran. And Allah says, بَعَدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. He says, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. You are the best community raised for the sake of mankind. How come? تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. Surah to Ali Imran. Because you have faith in Allah, you act in this way. This is the proof that you have faith. Otherwise, all that you have inside of you is peanuts. That's all. Because you have faith in Allah, Amr bil Ma'ruf. When it is right, you stand up for it, regardless of the price you have to pay. And when it is wrong, and it is evil, and it is shirk, and it is zulm, you stand up against it. Amr bil Ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar. This is the Quran. And that's how those young men behave. And that's the way I want you to behave who are listening to me. I want you to be men and women with backbones, not those who will bend in servility and slavery before their masters, the slave masters who today rule the world. Allah didn't send Islam into the world to create mice. No. Allah sent Islam into the world to create men and women with courage and determination who would stand up and struggle that the truth might triumph over all rivals. These were the young men who behaved like that. And when you behave like that, they'll come against you. Life is not going to be difficult. It will be so difficult that the Prophet said that holding on to Islam will be like holding on to hot coals. If you don't feel hot coals in your hand when you hold on to Islam, it's not Islam you're holding on to, something else. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so they had to flee. And they fled to a cave. They made hijrah. And we have to make hijrah as well. We have to flee. We have to disengage. We have to withdraw. I've been saying that all the time. This is Surah Al-Kahf. And when they fled to the cave, Allah put them to sleep. And they slept for 300 years. But while they were sleeping, this is the passage you just recited. While they were sleeping,
Yeah.
Allah caused their bodies to roll from left to right, right to left. Because the sunlight was entering the cave morning and evening. Morning and evening. So in the morning, when the sunlight entered from this side, the bodies will roll towards the sunlight. And in the evening, when the sunlight entered the cave from the other side, the bodies will roll to the other side. Why? Attraction to sunlight. And the sunlight is now transformed into energy. And that energy kept the vital organs alive. I think it's called photosynthesis and phototropism, if my scientific knowledge is still intact. And so the Quran is giving us a hint that in Akhirul Zaman, in the end times, you have to turn to solar energy. That with solar energy, you'll be able to survive in the end times. If you were there and you saw their bodies rolling like this, you would have been terrified, says the Quran, and you would have fled in fright because the people are sleeping and yet their bodies are rolling. Now, where's the link with, oh my, it's very little time left. Where's the link with Dajjal? Here's the link with Dajjal. If they slept for 300 years and then woke up, then after 300 years, obviously, their beard will be as long as from Trinidad to Tobago. Huh? And their fingernails will be as long as from the IBN studio where I am to San Fernando where I live. Huh? But when they woke up and they asked each other, how long have we been here? They said maybe a day or a part of a day. So how come they didn't have eyes to see? Your fingernails are as long as from here to San Fernando, and your beard as long as Trinidad to Tobago, and you can't see that? The answer is, when they woke up, they were still the same age as when they went to sleep, even though 300 years had passed. So they didn't spend those 300 years in this world of space and time. They spent the 300 years in another world of space and time. A call from the United States, but you kindly have to wait for a minute, please. And then the fact is, they were in this world, not in another world, because morning and evening. So they were in this world of space and time. How do we resolve this contradiction, this paradox? Answer, they were in both worlds of space and time. This one and that one. Continuous movement back and forth, and that is Dajjal. Yes, United States. Hello? Yes?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Imran.
Yes?
Yeah, I'm from Minnesota.
We have only a minute left.
Okay, I wanted to ask you very quickly about Gog and Magog.
Okay.
As you know, the United States, the Western world is led by the Zionists, and the Soviet Union was also led by the Zionists back then. Why does it seem like they have a Cold War and they seem to be in conflict with each other if both entities are controlled by the Zionists? And for example, in Afghanistan, as you know, they were fighting the Soviet Union, and it seems like the West was assisting the native Afghans, like they say, in fighting the Soviets. So
right,
that
okay.
didn't make quite sense to me.
Right, okay. We don't have the time to answer your question now because time is up, but I'll save your question for next week, inshallah, if you don't mind. The question pertains to God. We don't have the time to answer you today, all right? But I'll save your question for next week, inshallah. Before we end, I want to remind you, if you're in Trinidad, you can come and listen to me at the Endeavor Masjid in Chaguanas, in Montrose, on Jummah, the day of Jummah, Yawmul Jummah, Friday, the 1st of December, at the time of Salatul Maghrib. And I will be lecturing on the Essential Sunnah, and I'll be very happy to meet with you there. I believe they're preparing dinner. I hope it's a nice pilau, inshallah. And I look forward, inshallah, to seeing you there, inshallah, next Jummah, next Friday. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.